Why is it that we call some holsters IWB, some AIWB, and some AIWB/IWB? That's mostly a function of a combination of features that are found in some holsters and not others. So for example, today, I just have a Flint for the M&P Shield, and I have an Ember for the G48 with TLR7 sub. We describe the Ember as a combination AIWB or IWB holster. It is ambidextrous, it can be worn right or left-handed, and it can accept either DCC Mod 4s, a monoblock, or soft loops. The reason why I say it's a combination AIWB, IWB is that most holsters that are designed for AIWB, appendix carry, can also be carried strong side, but the same is not necessarily true in the opposite direction. So the key features, in my opinion, that make a holster compatible for appendix carry are it has to be able to be set up with either a straight drop or a few degrees of cant forward or back. But if it can only be set up with strong forward cant, it's not viable as an appendix holster. The ergonomics of drawing in front of your hip do not facilitate this angle. You have to be able to go straight up, or even some users prefer a slight reverse cant, which gives you a little bit more of a natural wrist angle drawing. So if the holster can only be worn, if it only has attachment points, offset high-low, so it has to be carried with forward cant, not viable for appendix carry. But that doesn't mean that a holster can't be doable for both. So the Ember is set up so you can have a monoblock with too high, too low, or you can go high-low. If you want to go strong side carry, you set it up high-low and you will get that forward cant. And because the holster does not have a large wedge on it, it's much more similar to a traditional IWB holster that can be worn behind the hip. The Flint, on the other hand, has a molded in wedge. Both these holsters have a mod wing. The Ember, since it's light bearing, has a light bearing mod wing. The Flint has a standard Gen 2 mod wing on it. The difference between the Flint and the Ember is that the Flint is a non-adjustable retention holster, and the Ember, these rubber spacers, is adjustable. You can't just take the wing off here, toss the hardware, and have the holster function normally. However, on a Flint, if you decided that because you're going strong side, you don't need all that aggressive grip rotation that the mod wing produces, you can just take the mod wing off because it is independent of the rest of the structure of the holster. You can simply remove it if you want a more relaxed amount of grip rotation and carry a Flint with either DCCs, soft loops behind the hip, and these also can be set up too high, too low, or high-low to give you that forward cant and be carried behind the hip. Generally, this wedge is more critical in the appendix position because as you transition below the belt line, your pelvis curves in and you need that wedge to fill the negative space. People use foam wedges, gel wedges, all kinds of options. I like a molded in wedge because you can always augment it with a thin layer of moleskin or gel, or you can add foam on top of it, but you have the added structural rigidity and the built-in angles in the shell. Whereas if your wedge is only soft material, you generally have to add more thickness to reliably get the same amount of rotation because it's compressible. So that's my breakdown. I consider the Flint and the Ember to both be AIWB or IWB holsters because they contain all the features that are necessary for successful appendix carry, but can also be sort of down configured for strong side carry. So those appendix specific features are not non-removable. However, some customers find that a wedge this large isn't as comfortable for them in the strong side carry position, in which case they would be better suited to go to a more traditional IWB only holster, especially one that has a more rounded muzzle and doesn't have a wedge. Something like a Filster Skeleton, a Dark Star Gear holster. There are lots of other good options that are more comfortable for users in that position if they find that the wedge bothers them. So thanks for watching. Have a great evening.